All right, here we go. Looks like we are live. Welcome, everybody, to Standing for Truth. My name is Donnie B, and I am your host and moderator for this next round in the 2022 Evolution Debate Challenge series. Tonight, I have Jackson Roe and Dr. Dino here with me to debate dinosaur to bird evolution. So, always an exciting topic. And Jackson Roe, one could say this is the return of Jackson Roe. It's been a while, been a long time. It's nice to see that you're doing well. So why don't we start with you in terms of not your opening statement, but just a brief introduction, a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your channel, and how have you been?
Hey, Donnie, Kent, I've been doing good. Part of the reason I've been gone for so long is I was sentenced for some exotic animal related things that I did. It's kind of a long story, but kind of interesting. But that's basically where part of the reason where I've been. Also, kind of just fell out of interest with debating for a while, but I'm kind of back with it. So yeah, I've been doing good. Looking forward to this debate. I think it's an interesting topic. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Well, I'll let you take it back.
Jackson, thank you so much. It's great to have you back, especially for this specific debate. And I appreciate you taking the Evolution Debate Challenge. For anybody new to this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You've got about 45 of these evolution debates this year for the Evolution Debate Challenge. So we've been keeping Dr. Hovind nice and busy. Who needs sleep, right? Kent, how have you been? Brief introduction and a little bit about Dal, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name is Kent Hovind. I've been a Baptist preacher 48 years and taught high school science and math for 15 years. We believe the Bible's true. We're building a Christian campground, Dinosaur Adventureland, in Lenox, Alabama, straight north of Pensacola, 70 miles. We think the evolution idea is dumb. Come on by and see our Dinosaur Adventureland. We have a science center with 12,000 square feet of all kinds of fun activities to do. We give the safari tour outside around 140 acres. It's a blast, all kinds of cool stuff. We just want God to get the glory for his creation. We get people saved, and 250 now. I got to change the number. Baptized so far. So come on down, take the tour, and it's amazing here. So I've been fine. By the way, somebody gave me the hat. Come to DAL and Ra. Come on down. We'll give you the tour. So we have nothing to hide here. We just want to give. We believe God made everything. We think any other answer is dumb. Okay, go ahead.
And then you and Aaron Ra can have a live debate right there in studio at Dal.
Anytime.
Sounds awesome. Okay, well, real quick, couple shout outs. This is a busy, fun week for evolution debates. So we'll be back here same time tomorrow. Ryan Adler, a new contestant, I guess one could say, new debater in this series, will be debating Dr. Dino, Evolution on Trial. And then the epic showdown that everybody's been looking forward to at the end of the week, Mark Reed and Kent Hovind, is there reasonable evidence for evolution? So with that, real quick, I want to go over the format for the audience. It's going to be mostly free-flowing, but we will start off with up to 8-minute introductions or opening statements just to kind of lay out the arguments for tonight. Did dinosaurs turn or evolve into modern birds? So Jackson, we are going to give you 8 minutes in terms of an opening statement. Whatever you don't use, that's completely fine. We'll throw it into the discussion. So whenever you're ready, Jackson, the floor is yours.
I'll go ahead and share my screen. If I can remember how to do this, hold on a second.
As you're doing that, the last few debates, the audience probably understands we've been doing lots of audience Q&A. So once we reach the hour mark, we like to keep these debates about an hour and a half. Once we reach the hour mark, we're going to do 30 minutes of audience questions. So chat's always lively. Make sure you're tagging me either at Donnie or at Standing for Truth, and I will save your question. And just in time, Jackson, there you go. Screen is up, and the floor is yours.
Okay, you can see it?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I'll start with the beginning, or at least the earliest known theropod dinosaur with feathers at 165 million years old. This is Siricornis. Also, I should probably state that my position obviously is that dinosaurs did evolve into birds. But anyway, Siricornis, you can see teeth, claws, 3 digits on the hands, long bony tail, Filamentous feathers and pennaceous feathers as well. This, however, was flightless, was not able to fly. It's about the size of a turkey. This is what it would look like in life. Next on the list, we have Kaihong, an interesting dinosaur, very small, about 1 pound. So it was very bird-like in regards to size, but obviously it's not very bird-like skeletally. You see the skull resembles Velociraptor a little bit, but has a nasal crest, almost like Allosaurus. You can see from the fossil impression it had large pennaceous feathers, especially on the tail. But this one was probably also flightless. Well, it was flightless. It possibly was able to glide, but maybe not. This is a recreation of what it looked like in life. They know some of the coloration from fossilized melanosomes on the feathers, so this is close to the real coloration. Next, 160 million years old, this is Endogenous. Again, classic dinosaur skeleton, theropod, but pennaceous feather impressions. This one's known from hundreds of specimens. I guess it shows this picture. This is about what it looked like in life, again from fossilized melanosomes. This is the actual color it was, black and white. Pretty interesting to know that this is how it really looked. Next in the lineup, living around the same time as Endogenous, this is Evolutionists. This is another small one. And again, you see teeth, claws, long tail. This is just some skeletal mock-ups of some of the feathered dinosaurs from around this time, about 60 million years ago, except for Endogenous, which was about 100. Archaeopteryx, which was about 150. You got Aornis, which was similar to Endogenous, Zhaotingea, Eosinopteryx. And of course, you have Archaeopteryx, about 150 million years ago. This is a bit more bird-like, but still not quite yet what you would really call a true bird. Still had teeth, the digits, the tail. But then you get to things like Confuciusornis, about 120 million years ago, which at this point was essentially a bird. It had a beak, a Pyga style instead of a long bony tail, but it still had 3 unfused digits. And this was a male. The males had these long tail feathers. Females didn't have those. This is also known from hundreds of specimens. A recreation of what that would have looked like in life. Those were some of the bird evolutionary lineup. There's some outliers of feathered dinosaurs I'm going to show here. This is Changyuraptor, the largest of the Microraptoria feathered dinosaurs. Had 4 wings, 2 sets of wings. This is about what it looked like compared to a cat. Unlike you guys, I don't believe cats and these lived at the same time, though. That's the one distinction. This is Zinwanlong, which had wings. You can see the impressions here, but was not able to fly as it was just too large. It was about, I'll show you in a minute. But clearly a theropod dinosaur, but with feathers. That's its approximate size, about 6 feet long. And there's Tyanuraptor, again another obvious theropod, but with feather impressions. And its approximate size compared to a cat. This is Wulong, which was a smaller one, but still obviously a theropod dinosaur. Zoom in on the skull there, you can really tell from that. But again, 2 sets of wings. This is a glider. And interestingly, it had a long set of tail feathers, 2 long tail feathers. It's about what it would have looked like in life. This is Sinocalliopteryx eating a Confuciusornis. This will be brought up later, I'm sure, about a temporal inversion argument. I'll go into that more in a minute. This is a fossil of Sinocalliopteryx, about 6 or 7 feet long, I believe. But you can see impressions along the tail mostly. Now, those have been called birds before, but it's hard to call this a bird. This is Eutyrannus, a 20-foot tyrannosaur found with feather impressions. 2 juvenile and 1 adult specimen were all found to have feather impressions on portions of their body. Some could claim these are collagen, but they were about 8 inches long, some of them, so they're far too long to be collagen fibers. That's not even the only tyrannosaur species with feathers. That's just the only one I included. Aside from feathers, their breathing systems were incredibly similar. They had air sacs in their vertebra and pelvis, like modern birds, kind of a flow-through breathing system, unique to birds today. And I'll just head off the temporal inversion argument. See, you'll say that things like Sinocalliopteryx lived alongside things like Confuciusornis, which is true. You'll say that feathered dinosaurs lived alongside things that appear to be more bird-like. How is that possible if they evolved from those? Well, there were 2 lineages that split around this point. I just drew this to illustrate it. But before this point, there were no true birds yet. 165, 150 million years ago, it was all things like Cercoornis, Anchiornis, Eosinopteryx, Archaeopteryx. Then it turned into a kind of a split lineage with Eutyrannus, Wulong on one end, Protopteryx, Confuciusornis on the other. So kind of bird-like dinosaurs and dinosaur-like birds. These 2 different lineages. I don't know how much time I used up there, but that's pretty much the presentation for the opening statement. So I'll hand it back over to Kent.
Okay, well, thank you, Jackson Roe, for the opening statement and the visuals. So now we're going to hand it over to Dr. Kent, the science gent, for a, let's say, 8 to 10 minute opening. And Kent, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'd like you to notice, if you go back and review this, all of his evidence for dinosaur to bird evolution is from fossils. All of it. They were dated based on the location in the rock strata in the geologic column. And they say they're 150, 180, etc. There is no geologic column. It is pure fiction. But that's the Bible to the atheists and evolutionists. That's how they justify billions of years to make their religion seem sensible and reasonable. One of the biggest lies in history is the lie that the layers of the earth are different ages. Goebbels said, you tell a lie, big lie, enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. In the early 1800s, they made up the geologic column. It does not exist anywhere in the world. They said all the layers are different ages. And they teach this to the kids from kindergarten on about the Jurassic age and the Triassic and Mississippian and Cenozoic and all that stuff. It's all baloney. The Bible says in the last days, scoffers would come who would be walking after their own lust, who would be willingly ignorant. And they're going to say all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. They are willingly ignorant of how God made the heavens and how the earth was standing out of the water and in the water. I covered that on video number 2. And they're ignorant of the flood. Now, no one in history has ever seen any of the trillions of steps needed to change a reptile to a bird. No fossil would possibly count. All you know is it died. But nobody's ever seen it happen in real life today. Animals today are having babies all the time. We don't see these changes. It's imagination. Evolution is 100% SpongeBob imagination. Science is what we can know and observe and experiment on and test. Evolution is not part of science. Evolution is a religion. At any one of these so-called changes to go from a reptile to a bird, you'd have to have 2 of them at the same time of the opposite sex in the same place. And they got to find each other. And then those 2 got to take over the whole population and all the rest of them have to die. So you got the new improved version, 2 of them, and all the rest of the millions around the world got to die while those 2 take over the population. And it has to happen over and over trillions of times. No fossil can count as evidence for evolution. All you could prove is it died. You could not prove it had any kids, nor could you prove it had any kids that were different. And I think when a grown man dreams a T-Rex turned to a chicken, it's time to get him some help fast. No reptile has ever been observed giving birth to anything but another reptile of the same kind. It's never been seen. Science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. Evolution is now, and always has been, nothing but a religion of superstition. It's a fairy tale. I think the idea that dinosaurs turned to birds is A, dumb, unsupported by any scientific evidence. It completely violates the scripture, that's for sure, and it's biologically impossible. God said he made the birds on day, made the birds on day 5. Fowl, that fly in the open firmament of heaven, every winged fowl, and this happened on the 5th day. So birds came first. Reptiles came on the 6th day. So what Jackson is teaching and what the textbooks are teaching now is precisely the opposite of what the Bible says, which is fine. They're welcome to believe that. I just want to point that out, Your Honor, for the jury to consider. This is completely opposite of what the Bible says. God's word clearly teaches birds were created day 5 before reptiles were created on day 6. So this dino to bird story is calling God a liar. And if you're willing to do that, that's your business. I think you'll face that again Judgment Day. Okay, reptiles have a 3-chambered heart. Birds have a 4-chambered heart. Completely different system of how the blood flows and oxygen exchange, the gaseous exchange in there. Reptiles are cold-blooded. Birds are warm-blooded. Reptile eyes are very different from bird eyes. They're not the same. They see colors differently. They're just not the same. So in order to, you got to change everything about the reptile, just about, to turn it into a bird. The fact that there are some fossil similarities in skeletal structure, that's a common design. That's proof of a common designer, not a common ancestor. Okay? Reptile brains are very different than bird brains. They're just not the same. So to change from one to the other would require trillions of intermediate little steps, not only in the physiology of the brain, but in the gene code to make it. The genetic code has to change. Reptiles walk on 4 legs, birds walk on 2. The lungs are totally different. Reptile lungs on the far left, bird lungs on the far right. How's that going to change step by step? And remember, each little change, you got to have 2 of the opposite sex in the same place at the same time. They got to find each other and be interested. Then those 2 have to take over the whole world's population every time there's a little change. Every time, okay? Respiratory physiology of how they exchange gases, the carbon dioxide and oxygen in the lungs, is just totally different. The Bible says, Jesus said, you're of your father the devil. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own. He's a liar and the father of it. Satan has to be laughing that people are gullible enough to believe the lies. All matter and energy came from nothing, or a dot smaller than a proton. Right. That's got to be one of the dumbest theories in the world. Life came from a rock. I'm sorry, I got to change that. Rocks, plural, okay? Dinosaurs turned to birds. Hitler said, you tell a lie long enough, loud enough, and often enough, the people will believe it. They're more likely to believe a big lie than a small one. Dinosaurs alive as birds, scientist says. Oh, a scientist said it. Well, this is absurd. This is lie number 57 of my Lies in the Textbooks on my video number 4 in my series, Lies in the Textbooks. It's not true. It's dumb. There are all kinds of differences. Modern birds are found in layers with and lower than dinosaurs. So if you think they changed, you got a problem here. Scales and feathers attach to the body very differently, and they develop from different genes on the chromosomes. So here you got reptile scales, several different types of them, fish and reptile scales. Just each scale is stunning in its complexity. A scale is amazing. If you study it under the microscope, they're awesome. Reptile skin covered with scutes or scales are formed in the epidermis. So the scale, I'm going to run out of time here. The scales and feathers are very different. But the textbooks teach the kids bird feathers evolved from the same scales that protected dinosaurs. That's just absolute imagination. Nobody's ever seen that. Why don't reptiles are still having babies today? Let's see a reptile get some feathers today. You find fossils that got a little dino fuzz on them. We'll talk about that later. That's not proof. Make it happen today. Reptiles are still having babies all the time. Let's see it. You really think that evolved by chance? You really think the scales turned into a feather? Feathers and scales are both made of the same protein, keratin. Doesn't prove a common relationship, proves a common designer, not a common ancestor. Birds have a 4-chambered heart. Most reptiles have 3. Reptiles lay leathery eggs. Birds lay a calcium-covered egg. Reptiles are cold-blooded. Birds are warm-blooded. The differences are stunning. The hips are very, very different. The problem, let's see, the evolutionary origin of birds is largely a matter of deduction. There is no fossil evidence of the stages through which the remarkable change from reptile to bird was achieved. The experts strongly disagree about the evidence. We don't observe it today. All they have for evidence are stories of how it might have happened. It violates observable science, God's word, popular opinion, and common sense. Chromosome number is different. There's a great book has a whole chapter just on this topic. the icons of evolution. The bird to evolution story is fairy tale. Didn't happen. God designed everything. They bring forth after their kind. Birds today, when they have babies, come out to be baby birds. Every time. Reptiles, when they have babies, turn out to be baby reptiles. So science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. I would like to observe this happening, any of these changes, going from a 3-chambered to a 4-chambered heart, have an animal do it again. Going from scales to feathers, let's do it again. I want to see it this time. Going from 2 front arms to wings, putting dino fuzz on it, calling it a feather, does not make it observable today. Show it to me today. It doesn't happen. Jackson, you're on the wrong side of this argument. God made everything, and your argument is calling God a liar. I wouldn't do that if I was you. Your turn.
Okay, thank you so much there, Dr. Dino, for your opening statement. We got opening statements from both debaters so far, Jackson and Kent. Jackson, to kind of kick us off in this discussion, since you both gave roughly 8 minutes of opening statements, why don't you take 2 minutes of uninterrupted time, if you'd like to make some comments and respond. We'll do the same for Kent, and then we'll kind of pick one point, one topic at a time and run with it for as long as we can. So, Jackson, go ahead.
All right. Well, he kind of dismisses all fossils because they're inconvenient. I'm just pointing that out. On the geologic column, they don't always date the fossils based on where they are in a geologic column. They date them on radiometric dating, which we'll get more into that later, I'm sure. But some of the complete geologic column can be found. We've talked about that, or almost complete, like the Ganymede Basin, the Williston Basin, the Tunisian Basin, the Bonaparte Basin. Fossils are like a snapshot in time. So you have one representing a time period, then it jumps from another to another specimen. To find 1 billion of them lined up to see these changes is not very likely. And to see it in real life, that's the same reason you're not going to see it in real life. And that's kind of what he latches on to, that you can't watch this in real time because these changes are too huge to see in a human lifetime or even many human lifetimes.
Did you want to? So that's exactly a minute with, I would say, 3 or 4 points. Why don't we now give Kent exactly a minute, and then let's just kind of pick one at a time.
Okay.
And then we'll make sure there's plenty of discussion on each one. Kent, over to you for a minute.
Well, Jackson, I don't dismiss fossils because they're inconvenient. I try to get people to look at this logically. How could any fossil count as evidence? All you know is it died. You do not know that fossil was different than that had any children at all. And you don't know it was slowly changing to something else. You find a fossil in the dirt. All you could prove in an honest court of law is it died. Not that it's inconvenient. And the geologic column, how on earth can the layers be different ages? Is this top layer coming from outer space? Where is it coming from? Moving it from here to here doesn't change the age of it. Shuffling a deck of cards doesn't make the top one younger. You guys don't get it. There is no geologic column. You say we found it in the Morrison Basin and these places. I'm very familiar with all of that. What they found was the rocks in the order that they teach in the textbooks. That doesn't prove that didn't help anything with the cause of their dating. Is the top layer coming from outer space? They're all shaking up a jar of dirt and sand and rocks and water will settle it into layers. The geologic column is a result of Noah's flood, all the different layers. So all the different fossils you gave that show dino fuzz or bird feathers on them, we'll talk about those one at a time if you'd like. But there is no evidence of any reptile ever producing a non-reptile baby. None. It's imagination. Go ahead.
Well, for the geologic column and the radiometric dating, for the age of the sediment, so to speak, they're not necessarily looking at the age as much as the isotopic ratios of different elements, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I'm very familiar with carbon dating, if you want to have a debate on that. Or potassium, argon, rubidium, strontium, lead 208, you pick which one you want. They're all based on the wild assumptions that that we know the initial content, which we don't know, and the decay rates has never changed, which you don't know, and there's been no contamination, you don't know. There's thousands of examples where they get wildly wrong dates from radiometric dating or potassium, argon dating, so they reject them. You find a fossil and you say, I would like this fossil to be, it looks like it comes from the Jurassic era, so it's got to be 70 million years old. They might have to date it many times to get the right number that matches the geologic column. What happened to the other dates? Wrong dates are rejected because the geologic column is the Bible. The carbon dating came 1950. Okay, geologic column came 1830. So it has to match the column or it'll be rejected. Dates, just type in how many radioactive dates are rejected. And why were they rejected? Well, they're too far off from the geologic column. That's really the Bible. That's the standard, and it's dumb. It's not possible to understand. Why would the top layer be younger? Is it coming from outer space? You guys never answer the simple question. There is no geologic column, but I know that's your Bible. So no, there's no evidence of any animal changing into a different kind of animal. You'd have to have two of the opposite sex in the same place, and they got to take over the whole population every time a little tiny change happens. Trillions and trillions of times. It's wild imagination. Go ahead.
Well, for radiometric dating, you can work backwards and determine how much of the original parent element was there in the beginning. And you can cross-reference it with multiple dating methods. And there are ways to test for contamination as well. So, I mean, we've been over that before in other debates. But another point you mentioned, T-Rex and chicken turned into chickens, which I think is misleading, obviously, because T-Rex lived alongside things like Confucius ornis, which was already a bird. T-Rex didn't turn into anything. They went extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period.
T-Rex didn't turn into anything. Now, I'd agree with that part of the statement. Nothing turns into something else. There is no observable history throughout all human history. There have been a whole lot of people, a whole lot of farmers raising different kinds of animals. Probably into the billions, maybe trillions of different animals have been observed having babies. And they're always the same kind. They've worked and worked and worked to get varieties of cows, and they now have 400 varieties of cows. Some give more milk, some more beef, some can handle the heat better, some the cold better. They're stuck. They can't get past cow. That's all that ever is observed. All we've ever seen we got chickens. A lot of people raise birds for various things. We got all kinds of birds here, canaries and macaw, and I don't know what all we got, pheasants. And they always turn out to be the same kind. Our pheasant had laid eggs, and they were not pheasants, parakeets. No. What am I trying to say? Peacocks. And they turned out to be baby peacocks every time. So it is just imagination. Even if it's true, it's not science. It's not something you can observe, study, and test. So you're looking at something historically and trying to squeeze that into the category of science, and it's not science. It's imagination.
Let me ask you a question. Would many small changes over time equate into a big change?
Maybe. Again, if you had evidence that it's happening, which we don't, if you had small changes over time, you'd have to have two. They got to produce the whole new population now, and all the rest of them have to die. What if you get two with this minor change, and they're just swamped by all the other there's too many more. They can't take over the population each time. So you can say small changes would add up to big changes. That sounds logical, but it's not observable. Nobody's ever seen it. We've had small changes where they get chickens that lay more eggs, but they seem to run into a brick wall. You can't get the chicken to lay an egg every second. There's a limit. You can get one to lay maybe one a day. So I don't know if they got 1 to 2 a day or not. I know they've got cows that give 100 pounds of milk a day, but you're never going to get a cow that gives 1 trillion tons of milk a day. There's a limit. Have they reached the limit? Probably getting close. So there's a record, 100-yard dash record is 9 seconds now for somebody to run. I think there's a limit. I don't think anybody's ever going to run the 100-yard dash in a half second. There's a limit. You guys don't see or don't understand. Yes, we see changes. They don't add up, first of all. And the changes are limited. We're stuck with the dog kind. There's 300 or 400 varieties of dogs, still dog. Little ones, big ones, still dog. So these changes do not add up, and fossils certainly don't count as any evidence for it.
You said that the dinosaurs were not warm-blooded, that their lungs were not similar to birds. There's evidence that they were, in fact, warm-blooded theropods. And their lungs, I pointed out in the debate opening, were very similar to birds with air sacs and et cetera.
I can barely understand what you're saying. Are you saying they found a fossil and they could tell it was warm-blooded?
They found indications that theropods are warm-blooded, yes.
Could you give me the name of those? I'll look those up. Is it still considered a theropod?
Yeah, like many of the theropods have been found to have signs of warm-blooded.
Okay. And does that prove something?
Well, you said that they were all cold-blooded and that it was dissimilar from birds. So,
well, definition of reptile is cold-blooded. I'm not aware of a warm-blooded reptile. I think that'd put it in a different category, wouldn't it?
It would, and they kind of are.
Okay. Well, there are animals that are in between. Modern man is classifying all these things. The animals don't care where we classify them. Okay. Man has decided to put the ostrich and the emu in the same family. Well, the emu's wings are a little tiny, useless almost. They use them for balance when they run. The ostrich wings are huge. They're still wings. They're still not running on all four. So that's not evidence of any relationship other than the same designer designed them for some reason to be slightly different. I don't know.
You don't believe ostriches and emus are related?
I don't know. We have emus here. We don't have ostriches. They both have feathers, but the emu feathers are very different than any other kind of feather. Comes out of the skin, makes two feathers. None of them are flight feathers. They're all warmth feathers or body contouring feathers. So a flight feather has the shaft off center from the material on the outside, whereas because it has to twist like Venetian blinds when it flies. Downstroke, wings close or flaps close. Upstroke, all the feathers turn to let the air go through the wing, not just around the wing, but through the wing. And then they close on the downstroke. So feathers are very complicated. They attach to the skin differently than reptile scales. I was going to get slides on that. I didn't have time. It's busy around here. And they're made from different genes on the chromosome. So for someone to make a statement, well, scales turn to feathers. Stop. Show me that happening today. A lot of animals have scales. Let's do it again. Only do it in the laboratory. I want to see it. I don't believe it happened.
Well, there are a lot of steps in the fossil record of feather development in those fossils that I showed. But also I want to say that ostriches and emus are in fact related. They're in the ratite family. So, yeah.
Well, you're saying they're related. You're just making a statement there. Is that because somebody drew lines on paper connecting them and therefore it's true?
No, it's from genetic and anatomical analysis. And
that's another broad statement there. Where's the evidence for that? To change one gene code to another, well, just to take a sentence from an English sentence out of a book and change it to mean something totally different. Sometimes you can make a little change, like add the word not, and it changes the meaning of the sentence. But in the gene code, any changes are usually harmful or fatal, or they like computer code. Randall, you've been doing computer work for years. If there's a glitch in your computer program or code, it shuts it all down. Well, the gene code of any bird or reptile, either one, is much more complex than any computer code ever written by man. So it's imagination to say that we have evidence of it happening. My point is, evolution is not science. You're welcome to believe it. You can have any religion you want, but it's not science. It's something you believe in. It's not observable. Show me a reptile growing feathers today. Show me one.
A reptile growing feathers today is kind of a difficult thing to ask, but also you said this is just kind of a nitpicky thing, but reptiles lay leathery eggs, which is not always true. Some reptiles have hard-shelled eggs.
Okay, if a reptile lays a hard-shelled egg, you may be right on that. I don't know. I couldn't find any, but suppose you're right. That still wouldn't prove any relationship to birds. That's just one of thousands of things you'd have to imagine happened over time. So if you find a reptile that lays a hard-covered egg like a bird, are there any birds laying leathery-covered eggs or leathery eggs? No. So it wouldn't matter. That's just, again, you got to get two doing this at the same time, in the same place. They got to be of the opposite sex. If you had two males evolve to do this, they can only make it in San Francisco. So that's not going to happen. It's all imagination.
Well, you keep bringing up these individual arguments, and individuals aren't the ones that are doing the evolving. It's populations as a whole.
Well, now this again is imagination. So not only all of them get the same idea to change slowly, to turn a scale to a feather. All of them got the same idea?
When a gene becomes dominant in a population, that's how it works. It's not just
That's my
one
point.
deciding.
If it happens to one of them, a mutation that's starting to turn the scale to a feather, it has to happen to all of them at the same time. How do the ones in Africa know the ones in South America are doing this? They got internet. Hey guys, we're going to change our scales to the feathers now.
Populations.
Well, this is a broad statement with no observable evidence. That's all. I wish you guys would see. It's not ever seen. It's something you believe in. Very great. Let me get my slides back up. Scales and feathers. So it's imagination. We don't see it. Science is supposed to be what we can observe. Okay, I will check and see if there are any warm-blooded birds. I'm not aware of that. Or reptiles, I mean. Warm-blooded reptiles. The eyes are different. Everything. The way they see colors is different. The brains are very different. So it's just, you're saying the whole population has to decide to change from a reptile brain to a bird brain? Well, then, why do we still have reptiles? If the whole population changed, apparently they didn't, because we still got reptiles.
Well, not the whole population doesn't mean the entire Earth biosphere. It means a population of this animal. So I think you're not understanding that. It's not. So it's like a branching out. It's not a linear thing.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm not believing it. Show it to me. Make a reptile lung turn into a bird lung. Birds require a lot more oxygen to fly. They have a very different lung system.
Would you say that a theropod dinosaur is a reptile?
Is a theropod dinosaur a reptile?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me do some research on that. Is it considered in the... Who decided to classify it that? Do they only find them from fossils? Is that all we know about? Are there any theropod dinosaurs running around today?
Yeah, they're called birds.
It's called birds. Oh, here we go. So you concluded based on your fossil record again. Okay. I don't have an answer to that. I'll check on that. Is the theropod... So it...
My point was, you seem to be indicating that theropods were reptiles. And if that was the case, then I've already shown you a reptile with bird-like lungs.
Well, you showed me a fossil, and I point out, Your Honor, you don't know that fossil had any kids. How could you prove it had any children at all?
Well, sure, that individual, sure, you can't prove that. But you prove it's part of a population that, and maybe that species died out and didn't move on, but maybe another one did that was similar to it.
Again, this is a just so statement. This is not tested in the laboratory. See, science, well, we can observe and study and test. I'd like to test that. Otherwise, it's your fairy tale. It's a story. I'm not getting computer signal in here to Google theropod to see exactly what evidence there is on that. But I'll get stuff ready for the next time.
All right. Well,
so would you agree I gave many differences between birds and reptiles? First of all, do you agree there are differences between birds and reptiles today?
Today there are, yes.
Okay. Are these pretty major differences? The brain structure, the heart structure, 3-chambered to 4-chambered, the way the blood flows through the heart. While it's slowly changing, it's going to die.
Yet in the fossil record, there is evidence that this slowly changed.
Again, you're stuck with that phrase, fossil record. It's not a record. When you find fossils in the ground, they don't have a date on them. They don't have they don't have an age on them, and you don't know it had any children. They can't talk. All you know is it died. You couldn't prove it had any children that lived, and you certainly couldn't prove it had children that were different. Okay. Theropods. Here, I got it. Okay. Dinosaur clade categorized by hollow bones and 3-toed claws on each limb.
That's another interesting thing. They had hollow bones like birds.
I'm sorry, I can't understand what he said.
They had hollow bones like birds.
Yeah, okay. Let's suppose there are some theropods with hollow bones like birds. Does that therefore prove a relationship, or could that prove a common designer? Did they need the hollow bones to be lightweight?
In itself, that wouldn't prove a relationship, but combined with everything, I think it builds a strong case.
Well, this is in a court of law. You give, here's your evidence A, B, C that this guy's guilty of the crime. And then they give the evidence A, B, C that no, it's not. And an honest judge would look at that and say, that could just as easily be from a common designer. Maybe they need hollow bones to be lighter weight. Hollow bones can actually be stronger because of the surface area tension generated by the inside and the outside of the bone for strength and flexibility.
Right.
So we don't know that it's proof of a relationship. Each one of the things that you imagine as evidence for a relationship could be evidence of a common designer. That's a cool design. 2 bones in the wrist, radius and ulna. That works pretty good. Works good for the bird, works good for the whale, works good for humans, works good for the dog. Doesn't prove a relationship. I think you find all the vehicles running around Alabama here have round tires. Yeah, it's a good design, works good. Again, not proof of anything relationship-wise. You found something there? Okay.
It could be proof of a designer, but I believe that even if that is the case, things still evolved. I'm not saying that there is no God, no designer necessarily.
All right, I don't have the source for this, but here's the theropod. Somebody Googled it for me. Theropods, like all dinosaurs, are classified as reptiles. This is something all taxonomists agree on, but the specific reasons given will be different. Early researchers thought dinosaurs had most of the characteristics of modern reptiles, including scales, laying hard-shelled eggs, and cold-blooded metabolism. I'll do more on theropods, interesting, but it's a reptile. Again.
Right, that was my point. Reptiles, but they had bird-like lungs and hollow bones.
They had bird-like what?
Lungs.
You can tell what the lungs were like from the fossil?
Yes, they had air sacs in the bones.
Again,
you have a picture of it right next to your head of what bird lungs look like.
Yeah. The bird lung has air sacs all over the place to get. He needs lots of air to be able to fly. Why would the reptile need this if he's not flying? Reptiles.
Some of them were gliding, like Shangiraptor, Wulong. Those were gliding.
So you're saying because they found theropods with hollow bones, therefore it proves a relationship to something totally different like a bird. I would say it proves somebody designed the theropod with hollow bones. There are frames of cars that are solid steel and others are hollow steel. Wow, take some of the weight off. My little Honda Insight somebody gave us has got hollow tubing for the frame as far as I've been able to see instead of a big A-frame or I-beam. Saves weight, gets 50 miles to the gallon. And so I think you may be right that they have air sacs in the bones. I don't know. I'll research. Can you find out whether did they have air sacs in the hollow bones, the theropods? Let's assume that's true. Still wouldn't change anything. That's not proof that it's changing into a bird.
What would convince you that theropod dinosaurs evolved into birds?
What would convince me is somebody make a reptile turn to a bird today in the laboratory.
In one generation?
In 1,000 generations. How many?
1,000 generations.
We've got how many chickens we got here? 200? I don't know, a bunch. Farmers been raising chickens for a long time. They always make baby chickens, always dumb as a box of rocks. But they don't ever produce anything else. So we don't see it. And if we could make it happen in the laboratory, that still wouldn't prove it happened in history. That's just one.
You can't really make it happen with reproduction. But if you bring out some of the genes that birds already have, you can make them have teeth. You can make them have 3 digits in their fingers. You can make them have long tails again.
Well, as far as the long-tailed dinosaurs with the feathers, I've got a whole section ready on that. We could do a whole debate. Many of them are fake and fraud, okay? And they've been proven to be fakes and frauds.
Archaeoraptor, that was a mistake. It wasn't necessarily a fraud.
Yeah. We'll get up there. About the frauds, let's see. Archaeopteryx. Scientists unveiled the missing link of birds and dinosaurs back in '99. Scientists unveiled a true missing link. Breaking news, National Pornographic. Look at this, a reptile with feathers on it. Okay. National Geographic.
It's Archaeoraptor, which was actually 2 fossils that had been put together by a dealer in China and mistaken by scientists until they CT scanned it. But half of the fossil is actually Microraptor, which is
so we can agree there are fakes. Many of them coming out of China, because those folks make $2 a day if they work hard. And if they can make one fake and make $1 million, they can buy half the county. So yes, there's a strong indication people in some of these poverty-stricken countries to do fakes. Missing link, Archaeoraptor, unofficial name of the fossil is actually two animals pieced together. So it lasted for a year as evidence for evolution and then, taken off. From the remote province in China, unusual dinosaur fossil made a mysterious journey to the hands of Chinese smugglers to the polished halls of National Geographic. It's like the curse of a mummy's tomb. The Archaeoraptor, supposedly bird-like creature with tail of a meat-eating dinosaur, has brought to those who would possess it embarrassment. It was proven wrong. So let's give it time. But my point would be, none of the fossils in any museum, and we got a museum full of them here, none of the fossils could count as evidence for evolution. All you could prove is it died. You can't prove it had any children. You imagine. What now?
Something I want to reiterate about Archaeoraptor is half of it was Microraptor, the lower half, I believe, the legs. And there are several fossils of Microraptor known now. It was a small theropod dinosaur that was able to glide. So Archaeoraptor was...
Wait. You said they found a fossil and they know it was able to glide? How could you tell that from a fossil?
Based on its anatomy and its feather structure.
If you found the fossil of a emu or an ostrich, would you determine it's able to glide? Neither one can.
You would be able to tell pretty quickly that it was able to not fly because it had no wings and it was 7 feet tall.
Right. I think it's a real stretch to say because you found a fossil, therefore we can tell it could glide. That to me that's way beyond science. Do it again. Let's observe it in the laboratory. Make one of those, make a reptile turn to an Archaeoraptor, and let's watch it glide. That's science. This is where you guys don't understand. Your religion of evolution is fine, but it's not part of science. Let's see. They added the tail, another fake tail. Some Chinese farmer changed it to a flying pterosaur. This was promoted heavily at Berkeley University in Nature magazine back in '99. The curator of birds at the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Pathological in Beijing said the tail was added and is fake. Curator of birds at Smithsonian, Olson tried to warn officials at National Geographic. He said, be careful. Both the fake fossils were intended to support the theory that birds evolved from dinosaurs. Olson is an outspoken opponent of the theory, is taking advantage of the moment to renew an old debate on the origin of birds, thanks to most recently to the fictional Jurassic Park. So you're promoting a theory, a statement actually, dinosaurs turned to birds, based on fossils, which couldn't prove anything at all. Where is it happening today? There's all kinds of reptiles out there. Let's see one produce some feathers and change from a 3-chambered to 4-chambered heart. Let's see it happen. And change the brain.
Said, you seem to think that all of the fossils coming out of China are fake, which most of the feathered dinosaurs are coming out of the Taojichen Formation in China. But there's at least one that I know of, Siramimus, which is a feathered dinosaur discovered in Germany.
So some German guy faked one too? Is that what you're saying?
Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I know the bigger point is no fossils count. But if you find a fossil of a reptile that had feathers, first option would be, why don't any reptiles today have feathers? How could it only happen long ago and far away, like Alice in Wonderland, long ago and far away? This is fairy tale stuff. That's all.
No, I think it's interesting. In one breath, you say fossils don't matter, but then you say they're all fake.
I didn't say they're all fake. I said those two were fake, and they were used as evidence for. They jumped on them right away. Oh, wow, look at this, evidence for our theory. And then when they're proven fake, oh, well, let's keep looking. Rather than say, maybe we got the wrong theory. You've already decided evolution's true. That's already decided. You will not question that. You've already decided dinosaurs turned to birds. That's unquestionable. Now let's see how it happened. And if one bit of your evidence is proven wrong, rather than change, you will wait till they find some more evidence. Because you're not looking for truth. You're looking to support your religion.
Well,
That's
it's
all.
not unquestionable. If you found Confucius-Ornis in the same strata as Syriac-Ornis, that would pretty much undo the whole thing, and we would have to say, well, wait a minute. But something like that hasn't happened yet.
Well, if your geologic column is true and you want to believe that, I don't, but let's assume it is. They have found birds in layers lower than these fossils you're talking about. Birds are already here. So these aren't missing link for anything. Oh, yeah.
No, they haven't.
I'll call it up here from your trusted sources. Let's see.
Let's see it.
Dinosaur feathers. Let's see. I got enough stuff to go for 3 days here. Fossils of birds, fully formed birds, have been found in layers lower than these missing links you're talking about.
Some of them, yeah.
Let's see.
And I brought that up.
So the birds are already here. So that one doesn't count for anything.
Well, they lived alongside certain feathered dinosaurs, but they never lived alongside things like Anchiornis or Syriac-Ornis longer ago.
Okay, I have some articles here. Experiments, they 2604. I got too many slides. 2604. They buried a carcass of a dolphin, which does not have feathers, for a year, and then studied them in their partially decayed state with a chromatographic analysis. They compared the dino fuzz in Sinornithosaurus with similar structures found in fossil pterosaurs, the decayed carcasses of dolphins and sharks. All of these creatures presented identical hair-like structures on their fossils and carcasses. But dolphins and sharks don't fly. They don't have feathers. So could it be if an animal is buried, if a reptile is buried in the mud in Noah's flood, and within a year the skin or carcass starts to decay and these little things stick up like hairs, like it happened to the dolphin carcass when they buried it for a year, and they're not feathers at all. It's part of the decay process.
That can happen, but if you remember in my presentation, Kaihong, it's a good example of a dinosaur that had pennaceous feathers, long pennaceous feathers. Those are not collagen fibers.
Well, I think they're just collagen fibers. That certainly is an option. That they're finding nothing except a partially decayed carcass that then fossilized. I point out animals die by the millions today. None of them fossilized that we know of. The fact that we find fossils at all is evidence of rapid burial, like Noah's flood. But the Bible said the scoffers in the last days would be ignorant, willingly ignorant, of that flood, because it represents the judgment of God. Like teaching people that 50-foot wide river at the bottom of Grand Canyon made that 18-mile wide canyon. Right. Grand Canyon formed in a week with billions of gallons, not billions of years, billions of gallons, trillions of gallons of water. So anyway, birds are descendants of dinosaurs. Kids are taught this stuff in school like it's a fact. I don't think you just put a few feathers on your dinosaur and lets it take off flying. It's a fairy tale, that's all. I got Archaeopteryx. Paleontologists have tried to turn Archaeopteryx into an earthbound feathered dinosaur. It's not. It's a bird. It's a perching bird. No amount of paleo babble is going to change that. He's the world authority on birds, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He doesn't believe it. Never did. Archaeopteryx had all the brain features of a bird equipped for flight. And the name means ancient wing. Had claws on the wings. That's unusual. Some birds today have claws. It had teeth in its beak. Some birds today have teeth. Some hummingbirds do.
Those are just serrations in the beak. That's been pointed out many times.
Well, some people have teeth and some don't. It's not proof of relationship, okay? So if you find Archaeopteryx, let's say you found a fossil of a bird that had teeth in the beak. That's proof it was changing? Or that's proof, hey, there's a new type of bird that we didn't know about before?
Well, no bird alive today has teeth.
This is where it's not evidence that it's changing to something else. If the Archaeopteryx had babies, if it was real, let's see. Like the Chinese dino bird, Archaeopteryx is fake too. Let's see. Material contained in the feather impressions differs significantly from the rest of the fossil. Article on creationscience.com. Differed from the crystal and rock in which the famous fossil quarry of Germany where Archaeopteryx supposedly was found. So I wish you would stop and back up a little bit. I know you're determined to defend your theory or your religion. I understand. I'm determined to defend mine also. That's fine. That's normal. There's wars fought over religions, okay? But you evolutionists will not admit it is something you believe. You want to hide under the guise of science. We never see a reptile produce anything other than a baby reptile. Never. It only takes place long ago and far away in the fossil record. That's where the only place it takes an imagination. So no fossils count. Show it to me today. That's all.
Show you a T-Rex giving birth to a sparrow today.
No. Show me. There's a lot of animals that have a very short lifespan. There are bacteria that get born, grow up, get married, and have babies in 8 hours. Okay?
Sure.
So you can watch 3 generations in one day. So one scientist over 50 years could watch hundreds of thousands of generations. And then you get more scientists carry on that experiment. Has anybody in the history of humanity ever seen a bacteria produce a non-bacteria? Or an amoeba produce a non-amoeba? Or a bird produce a non-bird? Or a pig produce a non-pig? Nobody's ever seen this. Because it only takes place long ago and far away. That's why it's not science. So the people who really understand biology of birds look at these things and say, like Alan Fiducia, that's not evidence. And I got the documentation of birds being found in layers lower than, with and lower than all of these so-called missing links. I'll call it up for you. I got
All right, let's see.
3,000 slides just in this one presentation here. There we go. There's right there. There's a book called In the Minds of Men by Ian Taylor, slide number 2549. LTV 2549. I think it's on my shelf right there, brother. Can you find that? In the Minds of Men, Ian Taylor. He shows from Nature magazine where they talk about this. Nature magazine, June 18th, 1999, where they find modern birds in layers with and lower than dinosaurs.
What are the species?
What were the species?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'll find out. We'll get the book, and I got how many books in my library here?
I think if we know the species name, that'll be kind of revealing as to what this is talking about.
Suppose a human bone was found in the very bottom layer of your imaginary geologic column. What would that do?
It would disrupt the theory of evolution pretty badly.
It would disrupt it pretty badly. I agree.
What about their footprints?
Or the footprints, they have been found, yeah. Okay, anyway, so your evidence for evolution was fossils, and I would point out none of them count because it's not observable today, and we don't know those fossils had any kids. You don't know it's transitional between anything. You're imagining this. Even if it were true. What? I'm sorry, what?
Let me ask you one more question. Do you believe that Uranus, because it had feathers, it would have to be a bird?
No, our modern classification system has everything with feathers put into the bird category. Here we go, right here. In the Minds of Men, Ian Taylor, page 155 of the book, which is, with 400, 500 pages.
Nor those species.
Ornithologists candidly admit some definitions need work to be done in here. This will take me a long time to read the whole page. I will summarize it for our next debate. But anyway, this is the documentation I'm referring to on the screen right here. The book is readily available on internet. In the Minds of Men by Ian Taylor. I don't know if we sell this or not. We used to when I was in Pensacola. Okay, I will have to look at that.
I don't recall seeing it in the bookstore.
Okay. It was very expensive is the problem, but it's a good. So suppose it's true that some fully formed birds were found in layers before the Jurassic. Would that also disrupt your geologic column?
The earliest birds are the early Cretaceous, but feathered dinosaurs appear in the late Jurassic.
Well, again, like I pointed out at the very beginning in my intro, Your whole theory is based upon this geologic column, which is, how can a layer be a different age?
But you're using the geologic column argument against itself.
Well, I'm trying to get you to see this from all. I'm trying to get you to see this from all sides. It is imagination. Does this go geologic? No, it doesn't go to geologic column. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it's all based on this idea that the layers are different ages. I keep asking the question, where are these new layers? Why are they younger? Did they come from outer space? If they just got moved from one place on planet Earth to another place on planet Earth, that didn't change the age of them. Shuffling a deck of cards does not make the top card younger.
No, it doesn't.
This is not younger than the rest of them. So
they usually don't date sedimentary rock, they date igneous rock. And when it comes up from the mantle, they're not measuring it's how long it's necessarily been around, so to speak. They're measuring the isotopic ratio of when it was laid down.
Well, now hold it. If it's metamorphic rock, igneous rock particularly, like lava and stuff, you can measure theoretically when that was laid down with radiometric dating. But again, you're based on the problem. Do you know the initial content of that rock? You know it was zero?
They can work backwards by what it is today. The two daughter elements, the amount there, and based on the rate of decay, they can work back and know the original content of the parent element.
Okay. Do you know there's been no contamination? Do you know the decay rate's always been the same? There are several things that affect the decay rate.
Like what?
And so I don't think you could prove in a court of law that decay rates always remain the same.
What affects the decay rate?
Well, I've got a list of them on my video number 7 of the different why carbon dating has some real serious problems. I think you'll find those who understand carbon dating will say, yeah, we have to base this on some assumptions. If you walked into a room and found a candle burning on a table, here you are, candle's burning. I ask you the simple question, how long's it been burning? I don't know. It's burning when I got here.
The original length.
You don't know the original length. You don't know it's always burned at the same rate. They might have lit it 10 seconds before you got there. It might have been a 5-mile tall candle, been burning for 2,000 years. You can't know these things about carbon dating either. How much was in it when it started?
Not carbon dating, but like uranium lead dating. You can take the
uranium,
two
lead,
daughter
potassium,
elements,
argon, right?
and take
they're all based on
and see how much the original parent element was there. So you can know how tall the candle was, so to speak.
You can know how tall the candle was?
Metaphorically, not an actual candle, but yeah.
Well, when I'm in this presentation mode, I can't get to some of my slides, like my PowerPoint for number 7. So, Randy, do I have to close out to do that or what? Well, they're not. I can't get to that. Anyway, let's do another debate on carbon dating, potassium argon dating. I've got plenty of stuff on that. And I give examples where the dates are wildly wrong. And how do you know they're wrong? Well, they don't match the geologic column. See, the geologic column trumps any carbon dating or potassium argon or rubidium strontium or lead 208. When Mount St. Helens erupted, they tested fresh samples of lava and they watched it come out and it gave the wrong dates. Well, then how do you know the ones from Vesuvius give the right dates? That was 2,000 years ago. How do you know? The ones we watched happen didn't work.
And they've gotten the right dates.
I'm sorry, what?
They've tested the ones from Vesuvius and have gotten the right date because they know when it erupted based on historical records. And they tested it and got back to that year.
I'll tell you what, let's get a lava sample from Vesuvius. We know when it erupted historically because they kept records. And let's break it up into 10 samples, send it to 10 different laboratories. Don't tell them where it came from. Walk into the lab. Here's the rock. How old is it? I can tell you right now, the first question they're going to ask is, where did you find it?
Not going to tell you. Radiometric dating. Well, maybe a little bit.
Could they take a rock sample or an igneous rock from a volcano? I won't tell you anything about it. Here's the rock. How old is it? You're telling me they could use radiometric dating to give an age for that rock, and if we gave it to 10 different laboratories, they would all come up with the same number?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think so.
You need to study that one. You're dead wrong. They
And
get
you
different dates.
cross-reference them with multiple dating methods if you're not sure.
Well, if there's any question and they're not sure, then this isn't real observable science. This is the point. And all it takes is a shade of doubt in a court of law, not guilty, Your Honor. We can't prove him guilty. You can't prove the age of anything. And all these dating methods were invented in the last 70 years. All of them. Radiocarbon dating, Willard Libby invented that, University of Chicago. All of them are recent compared to the geologic column. So that's my point, is that the geologic column is really your Bible. And you're welcome to it. I don't choose to believe in it, but you're welcome to believe in it. I'm sorry, I cannot get to it right now. I'll get back where I was. Okay. Okay, so did I cover all? You said the evidence for the debate tonight, dinosaurs turned to birds. All your evidence is a bunch of fossils. None of them count. Categorically, they can all be thrown out. You don't know they had any kids.
I don't know if the ones had any kids. Well, those, I assume they didn't have any kids because they were killed in some event that fossilized them. Maybe they had kids before that, but after that, I don't think they did. But they were part of a population. That much we know.
Well, you don't know that, because if they're slowly changing to be something new, then maybe they're not part of a population anymore.
Well,
they're brand new.
Understand. I know you don't believe in it, but then you don't even understand how evolution is supposed to work.
Oh, I understand what you say happened. I understand it way better than all the evolutionists. It's imagination.
You don't seem to realize the individual and population distinction with that statement.
That was my point. If one individual, so all the individuals in this population got the same mutation at the same time? All of them did? Okay.
No, it spreads through a population.
In order to spread through a population, the ones with the new improved genes have to take over, and all the rest of them have to die. What about the guy next door that doesn't have the improved gene? This is Adolf Hitler thinking.
It takes over time. It doesn't all happen at once. And you keep linking this stuff to Nazi type stuff. You mentioned that several times. I just find that interesting.
Adolf Hitler strongly believed in evolution, this theory you're teaching, and he thought, hey, we are the improved species. Look at us, blonde-haired, blue-eyed German. Let's kill everybody else to speed up the process.
Do you really think he did what he did because of evolution, or because he was a vehement racist?
Because he was what?
A vehement racist.
Being a what?
A racist, a huge racist. Do you think that was more of a
racist
factor?
Well, that's what racism is. It's belief that one race is superior because of the skin color. You're saying one reptile was superior because it started to grow feathers. Oh, well, let's kill all the ones that don't have feathers.
I'm saying they're different. They fill an ecological niche.
I'm just not the microphone or something. I'm not, or maybe I'm getting old and deaf, but I'm not understanding what you're saying. I'm not hearing it.
What was the last thing you said, Jackson? If you want to reiterate it.
They're not better. They're filling an ecological niche.
Okay, so you have all these reptiles. One of them starts to grow feathers because of a mutation. Now, you still got a world full of reptiles, so it has to spread through the population. That's code word for everybody else has to die.
Not necessarily. I mean, population can split, and some populations remain unchanged relatively. Other population can go on and with this new mutation and change more.
Would you agree? Okay. Would you agree if a reptile started to get a feather, you would have to have two, a male and a female, do the same thing at the same time in history, in the same place in a big world? Now you got a bigger problem.
That's necessarily how spreading mutations works. You don't have to have two at the same time develop the same thing at once.
Right. This is why your whole theory is based on imagination that it happened. Show it to me happening today. Tell you what, they've been trying to get faster dogs for a long time to race, the dog races that they have. Let's start to grow wings on a dog that he can fly around the track.
So wings on a dog would prove evolution.
Okay, make it happen.
My
wife's family raises dogs to sell. They get the pugs, the ones that chased a parked car and caught it and caved his nose in. Okay, so they're useless in my opinion. All the mutations we've seen with dogs, they're still a dog, and it doesn't get any new information. It's a loss of information. Where did I have that? Right here.
All right. So you agree that, say, a wolf and a maned wolf, a gray wolf and a maned wolf are related. They're both a type of wolf.
I think if you take with wolves or dogs or coyotes or maybe even foxes, they can diversify to where they're no longer interfertile. They're still obviously the same kind of animal. A kindergartner will tell you that. It's got fur, doesn't have feathers. So to imagine that a reptile turned to a bird, I'm just saying, I'm pointing out, it's imagination. Even if it's true, we don't have any scientific evidence to show it. None.
It's imagination, even if it's true.
Well, yeah, even if it were true. Okay. You guys, do you believe Jesus Christ was the Son of God and came down to earth, became a man, and died on the cross?
I don't think so, but I don't completely write it off.
Oh, right. So in your mind, the Noah's Ark story, in your mind, that's imagination.
I think that's
in my mind,
yeah.
Okay. In my mind, it's real. But I'm not demanding that my theory be taught to all the kids in school at public expense. You guys imagine that reptiles turn to birds. Even if it's true, it's imagination.
But
you can't prove it.
You've done public speaking in public school, so is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So, what?
Well, get the textbooks and show me where my theory is taught in the public schools.
It's not. They're taught in private schools.
I think evolution should be taught in private schools, and we should teach science in science class in public schools. And evolution is not part of science.
What constitutes science if we leave out everything that disagrees with a fundamentalist creationist view?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. Don't put those words in my mouth. I taught biology for 15 years. I think you could teach the kids all the bones, all the muscles, all the nerves, all the organs, all the functions, and not mention evolution or creation. A doctor, when he's doing surgery, does not need to know about evolution or creation. He needs to know his anatomy. This is the deltoid, the biceps, the triceps, the humerus. He doesn't need to know anything about evolution. It's a useless theory. Even if it's true, it's completely useless. It's of no value whatsoever. You don't need to know anything about evolution to do anatomy and surgery.
Not really, but it's not a useless theory. It is used in medicine.
Well, I'd like to see how it helps, and I'd like to see the evidence. You said a population slowly changed. How many changes would it take to go from a scale to a feather? 25,
17.
50.
I don't know. I'm making that up. I don't know. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I didn't understand a word of that.
That's all right. I was making a joke.
Talk
Hey,
more
gentlemen.
clearly.
Gentlemen, did you, I think we're about 7 minutes over on the discussion. Did we want to jump into some concluding statements? Definitely been a lot of fun, a lot of excellent points discussed, easy to moderate. Okay, let's do closing statements. Tons of fun. At this pace, we probably could go forever, but let's wrap it up somewhere. So Jackson Roe, we're going to give you the first 5-minute closing, and then Kent, and then we are going to get into some audience questions. So go ahead, Jackson, whenever you're ready.
All right. Yeah, it's always fun. I mean, even if it gets contentious, it never gets disrespectful. And I just want to reiterate that, yeah, there's a lot of evidence that birds and dinosaurs are related. Technically, if you want to get technical, birds are still a theropod dinosaur. But yeah, I enjoyed debating Kent. He's fun to debate. Most people get disrespectful with him. I try not to do that, and I don't do that, I don't think. And anyway, I look forward to more of these in the future. That's really all I have to say. Not too much to talk about, so I'll hand it back to Kent.
All right, short and sweet. Thank you so much, Jackson Roe, for your closing statement. Dr. Dino, you get 5 minutes as well. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Oh, let me set my timer here. I tend to go a long time. Okay. Yes, well, thank you. I agree. Jackson, you're not disrespectful. Some are. It doesn't bother me at all. Actually, I thrive on it, okay? When they call names, I can call names. I had 2 big brothers, okay? I learned right away to verbally defend myself. Couldn't do it physically. So, yeah, I can handle them just fine. I think evolution is stupid. It's not a science at all. It's a religion. The idea that one animal slowly got these changes, and then now you're saying it had to be a whole population of animals to get the change, and I would agree. And it has to somehow turn to something else. We don't see this happening. And all of your evidence tonight was from fossils. I wish you could understand. All of that would be thrown out in any court of law. All of it would. You don't know it had any babies. You don't know it's intermediate between something else. Is a tricycle intermediate between a bicycle and a four-wheeler? No, it's designed to be a tricycle. It's not intermediate. And there is no geologic column. I still don't have a good, solid, logical, scientific answer. How can the layers be different ages if they're all on the Earth at the same time? Are these new layers coming from outer space? And moving it by erosion and redeposition someplace else doesn't change the age of it. All the layers are the same age. All over the world, petrified trees are found standing up, running through all these layers. We show that on my video number 4, lies in the textbooks about the geologic column. This geologic column is simply baloney. There's no such thing as a Jurassic period and Triassic and Mississippian. No such thing. It didn't happen. The Bible said the scoffers in the last days would be willingly ignorant of the flood. The world was overflowed with water. All the layers formed in 1 year. I can take these sand art things, turn them, and make 15 or 20 layers in seconds. Every grain of sand in there is the same age. Moving it to a new location doesn't change the age of it. I don't know how you guys can't get that. So I would say there is no evidence whatsoever of any animal changing to something else. No one has ever seen any of the trillions of steps needed to change a reptile to a bird. You got to change the brain, the heart, the scales into feathers, the 4 limbs into 2 limbs and 2 wings. You got to change the lungs. It just isn't observable. We don't see it. Even if it's true, it's not part of science. Just like I think Noah's Ark is true, but that would not be part of science because it's part of history. And evolution is not even a good part of history. It's imagination. You think it happened, great. But as I said before, you got to get 2 of the opposite sex in the same place, and the whole population has to change. And who would their kids marry? If you get 2 that have this change, they have babies. Who do the babies marry? Each other? No fossil counts as evidence. All you can prove is it died. You couldn't prove it had any kids. You certainly couldn't prove it had kids that lived and were not sterile. And you couldn't prove it had kids that lived that were different. So I think all of evolution is a nice fairy tale, but it has dangerous results. It teaches the kid, you're nothing but an animal. Oh, let's go act like animals. I show video number 5, the dangers of the evolution theory. Kip Kinkle and guys that did all the shooting at Columbine High School, those 2 guys, they were both strong believers in evolution. And they said they were trying to, because of evolution, it motivated their thinking. They said Isaiah Shoals was black. We're going to shoot him. Black people are inferior, or words to that effect. So I think it is dreaming that any reptile turned to a bird. No one's ever seen this happening. It's not part of science. I think this whole idea, as I mentioned before, is dumb. It's completely unsupported by science. It violates the scripture for sure, and it's biologically impossible. It doesn't happen. Not science. So you guys, I wish you'd say, man, I believe in evolution. I think dinosaurs turned to birds, and I'm going to teach that to my kids in a private school. Great. Go start a private school. Teach them whatever you want. It's got no business being in our public school system. All right. I'm ready for questions from the audience.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Dino, there for your 5-minute concluding statement. Excellent debate. Very engaging. We've also got a lively chat in terms of the audience with many positive comments. So let's get right into the questions. Okay, here we go. First question comes in from Ken Rock. And Ken Rock has a question for Jackson Roe. Ken and Kent just finished their debate trilogy last week, but he looks like he's got a challenge to you, Jackson, specifically. So he asks, question for Jackson: how do you determine all of the fossils are related and not just similar?
Well, some of the similarities are so big that it's hard to say that they're not related. Like, how do you say Cercoornis is not related to Anchiornis, or Anchiornis not related to Archaeopteryx, or Archaeopteryx not related to Confuciusornis? They just have so many similarities, and they just happen to line up just right, that it's kind of coincidental that they I mean, it's kind of boggles the mind that they wouldn't be related.
Okay, thank you there, Jackson. And Kent, over to you if you had anything to add.
Well, I think quite a few Hondas and Toyotas have a lot of similarities. Are they therefore related? Or is that just a design that works? You're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, Jackson. You're seeing, hey, these look similar. And you're coming to the wrong conclusion. Oh, therefore they're related. I say, no, they have a common designer. That's a design that works. Round tires work great. So nearly all the vehicles got round tires. Some got treads and stuff, the tractors and stuff. But so it's a design that works. So I'm seeing the same similarities and saying, yep, I agree. They're similar. Now, does that prove? I'm going to have to unplug mine, I guess, to make it work. There. Does that prove a relationship? No. That's the conclusion you guys reach, and I think that's unwise. I don't think that's science. There we go. Yeah. There. Anyway, that's all I have on that one. Go ahead.
All right. Well, to the point.
You get the last word, Jackson. Question was for you.
A design that works well. A design that didn't turn out to work that well, apparently, were the 4 wings, the 2 sets of wings on Changi-Raptor and Micro-Raptor and Tyanni-Raptor. That was kind of awkward for walking on land. It worked kind of for gliding, but it was kind of an awkward stance. So apparently that didn't make it into modern times. And that design, so to speak, died out. So that's, I guess, next question.
This is all your circular reasoning. Back up and listen to what you said when you watch this video again. That's complete circle. It died out. It didn't work. You don't know that fossil goes anywhere or had any. They find fossils all the time, but that's a unique thing. Wow, strange. What is this one? If you found one fossil of an unusual fossil, which they find, I think you could conclude must have been part of a population. There must have been some more, or this one wouldn't have been here. I bet it had a mom and dad. So anyway, I think the whole argument from fossils, though, is where it's flawed right there. And the whole argument from carbon dating is seriously flawed based on assumptions. Give us time so our frog can turn to a prince. That's all it's about, trying to get billions of years into the picture when it's just not observable science.
All right. Thank you, Kent. To be fair, Jackson, if you want, you can have a quick final word on that question.
That's all right. We can go to the next question.
Okay, right. Donnie.
Yeah.
I get people comment on my channel. I challenge all the atheists to debate me on your channel because you're fair. And they say he believes in creation. That wouldn't matter if I debated on a channel that the guy believed in evolution. You're a fair moderator. I just want to point that out. Equal time, equals, no interrupting. Doesn't matter what you believe. You're a fair moderator, and you atheists ought to quit crying. Grow up. How many people have refused to debate now? You got how many pages of list of names?
We have a list of about 30 pages now. We can post it in the chat for people to see.
Please, post it in the chat. 30 pages of names who refuse to debate. Some, they say, well, it's because it's on your channel and you happen to believe in creation. That doesn't matter. The fact that you're fair is all that matters. Good job. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, brother. Any evolutionist who's in the live chat right now whose name is on the list, all you have to do to get your name off the list is take the evolution challenge. So give me a call or specifically give me a call and we'll set it up. So, okay. Appreciate that. Born Again RN, Steve Christie, thank you so much for the question. This one is for you, Jackson Roe. So Steve asks, if the dinos went extinct 65 million years ago, how did birds evolve from extinct animals? Isn't birds flying adding to the genome since dinosaurs couldn't fly?
Birds evolved about 130 million years ago in their true form, so to speak, with Confucius horns. Not 65 million years ago. And feathered dinosaurs appeared 165 million years ago. So they didn't evolve after 65 million years ago. So the question doesn't really make a lot of sense, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Jackson. And Dr. Dino, over to you if there's anything you'd like to add.
Well, of course, all of his answer is based on the geologic column, that we know the age of those things. I still want to point out, how can these rocks be different ages? They're all on the Earth at the same time. They're not coming from outer space. It's just they don't get it. The geologic column doesn't exist. That's their biggest drawback. But the second part of her question is, I think, fabulous here. I'm assuming it's a woman born in RN. I don't know. Isn't birds flying adding to the genome? It certainly is. The genetic information required. Don't pilots have to go to school to learn a lot of stuff to stick it in their head to learn how to fly? How did a reptile learn to fly? Where did this new information come from? It's not just biological. There's a lot of nerve, a lot of memory, a lot of storage in the brain to be able to fly. I think it's imagination. That's all. Go ahead.
Jackson, if you want a final word. Oh, I think you're on mute, Jackson. Here, you're good now. You're good.
I don't
now.
really have much to add to that. We can go to the next one.
Okay, no worries. All right, let me see here. Lots of questions for you, Jackson. Let me see if there's one for Kent. Okay, here's one from Kent. Creationist Crybaby, one of our #1 fans here, Dr. Dino. CC has a question for you. Kent, what are your thoughts on how many bird kinds were in the garden, and what kinds were those?
I don't know how many kinds God created. He seems to have created birds with the ability to produce a variety within their within limits. There are now 500 varieties of chickens that have been developed by man. Some for produce more eggs, produce more meat, whatever. They've never added any information. So I would be wildly picking a number. I would defer to baraminology.com. Baramin is the Hebrew word for kind. And there's a website that's what they do, is try to research how many kinds were there on Noah's Ark, for example. I think the current estimate is it would take Noah could have 8,000 kinds of animals on the ark, and they could produce all the varieties today. We now have 400 breeds of cattle that probably came from 2 cows, okay? So I don't know how many kinds of birds there were. I'd be wildly picking a number, 500 pairs of birds, maybe. And for the crybaby, I got exactly what he needs. Time or more time. It cures everything. Yep.
Perfect. And for those refusing the challenge because I'm a creationist, I got the perfect mug for you. Evolutionist here. Jackson, go ahead, my good man, if there's anything you'd like to.
All right. The question doesn't really apply to me, but I do just kind of want to bring up that Kent in the debate said that emus and ostriches aren't related to each other. So are they separate kinds? I don't know. Maybe they are.
Yeah, I don't know. Could be. Don't know.
But anyway, that's all I have to add.
Okay. All right. Kent, is there anything final you want to say, or move on here?
No, move on.
Okay, here we go. Question for Kent from Kent, your best buddy here, Atheist Junior. So everybody is here tonight enjoying the debate. So question for Kent. Why does it matter if we know a fossil had children or not?
You're counting on that fossil to be part of a chain of events to go from one kind to another. To go from your great-great-great-great-grandparents to you, you'd have to have all the generations in between. I'd be willing to bet $10 if you don't have any parents, you're not here. I mean, hello, it has to be a chain of events, and so you're relying on this fossil to be part of that chain to change from one to another. This isn't observable science. It's logic that it would have to have a father and parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. That's all we observe in all of human history all over the world. Every creature that's alive today had a mom and dad, or at least a parent of one, if it's only has one parent. But still, if you find a fossil and you say, I think this is ancestor to the dinosaurs or to the birds today, whoa. Where's its children and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren? You don't have it's not like a missing link. The whole chain is missing. There is no chain, let alone link. So, hey, Jay, when are you going to debate me again? Come on, bring it on, anytime. Go ahead. Donnie, is he on your list? Is he refused?
Well, I guess because you and him debated a couple months back, but we'd love to see another round.
Sure. Do it again, or else add his name to the list. Okay. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence for evolution? Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you there, Kent. Jackson, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, Kent, you seem stuck on the individual thing. course, we can't know if an individual fossil had children, but again, it's probable that the population was reproducing. That's really all I have to add.
Okay. Kent, any final words, brother?
No, go on. Go ahead.
Okay. Next question comes in from G Moose. G Moose, thank you for your question and your super chat. The question is for Roe. If small changes are never seen to be beneficial, how can the changes ever make anything better?
By that logic, they wouldn't, is the answer. But some mutations are beneficial. I know there seems to be a hang-up with that among the creationist community, but the fact is some mutations are beneficial. But yeah, anyway, to Kent.
Okay, thank you. Kent, over to you.
Has anybody ever demonstrated a beneficial mutation that added information? I would say, I want to see that. We have ducks here that come up to eat out of my hand when I go take my tours and feed with the kids and stuff. 2 of them have a mutation in their skull. Makes feathers grow funny on the side of their head. Okay? It's not beneficial. All mutations I'm aware of are harmful or fatal or neutral. They do nothing. Where's one that adds information? I don't think there are any.
There are plenty of mutations that add information. De novo mutations, duplication mutations, all these can add information.
Duplication isn't adding information. It's if I give you, hey, here's a book. Oh, here's 10 of the same book. It's the same book.
Right, and then point mutations or other mutations can change that copy of that and make it different.
Okay, let's do a whole debate on that. Where are the beneficial mutations? I'll take the position that's not, I don't think there are any. If you point to 1 or 2, you understand you'd have to have trillions to change a reptile to a bird. Trillions of mutations. There's no evidence for that.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks for the back and forth, keeping this debate fun. Redefine Living has a question for Jackson. Sam, thanks for the question, brother. Okay, here it is. We have studies showing all mutations in fruit flies have been done, yet no evolution. How can you reconcile this with your evolutionary model?
Well, we've seen microevolution by your definition in fruit flies, but have we ever seen a fruit fly turn into a cow? That's never going to happen. That's just not how it works. And I know that's a lot of what young Earth creationists seem to want to happen to prove macroevolution, but that's just never going to happen.
Okay, thank you, Jackson. Kent, anything you'd like to add?
Well, this is a classic example of how they have done scientific experiments, which is what science is supposed to do. They took the fruit flies, put them in a laboratory. They have a very short generation time, and they have nuked them and microwaved them and x-rayed them and frozen them and done all kinds of mean things to the flies, trying to force them to evolve. And all they've ended up with is fruit flies. They got flies with no wings. Can't fly. It's not a fly. They got flies with curled wings. They can't fly. I got pictures of all that here somewhere in my seminar. So that experiment demonstrated we can certainly get some changes. We cannot get any beneficial changes. So far, they didn't get any. Now, you might imagine that someday they will. Okay, well, that's not observable science. What we have observed is fruit flies always produce fruit flies without exception, and the changes that were induced were harmful. Exactly what I said. Mutations are harmful, fatal, or neutral. Nobody's seen they didn't see any good mutations in the fruit fly. None. I'll get slides on it in a minute here if I can go through my 10,000.
I don't really have anything to add on that other than to say I used to feed flightless fruit flies to my electric blue day geckos, and that was pretty cool. But anyway.
Okay, here we go. Next question comes in from, let's see here. Gate Watchers. Question for Jackson. Why do feathers shed individually or pairs and scales shed in sheath?
Because feathers aren't attached to each other like scales are on a reptile. I mean, that's a pretty simple answer, really.
Okay. Kent, anything you'd like to add?
No, I didn't know that the scales shed in sheets. That's interesting. I know scales are different than feathers. There's many different types of feathers. You know, there's flight feathers and warmth feathers, and but it's not. We don't see them produce anything other than a feather.
Okay, Jackson, response or move on? Okay, we'll move on then.
Yeah, we'll move on.
No worries. Appreciate it.
I was kind of baffled by this question.
No worries. Question for Kent from One God Is Now Here. So the question is, if a functional leg changed into a wing, wouldn't it turn into a bad leg, then a non-leg, then a non-wing, then a bad wing before the change into a functional wing?
Excellent question, and it illustrates the point clearly. While it's from a leg, which works, changing to a wing, which works, there's billions of intermediate steps that don't work for either. Now it's not a wing yet, and it's not a leg anymore. It's going feathers dragging these long feathers around on a leg while they're running is going to slow them down, and the predators are going to eat them. So I think it's imagination to say, well, all these steps were beneficial when I don't see how any of them could be beneficial. You can imagine them if you want, but that's not how science works. Science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. Okay, do it again. It's not science.
Well, I do want to comment on that then. I kind of understand what he's saying now. The like Microraptor, for example, had two sets of wings, its front arms and its legs. For gliding, that would have been fine. For walking on the ground, it would have been kind of awkward. So it's kind of an awkward phase that didn't quite work out. But anyway.
Okay, now, how do you know about this Microraptor? Are there any alive today we can look at, or only knowing this from fossils?
There are many of them preserved in fossils, yeah.
So are there any of them alive today?
There are not.
Okay. So you know for sure it could glide, and you know for sure it had feathers, and you know it was intermediate.
Well, it wasn't really intermediate. It didn't lead to modern day birds. It was on the line that was living alongside birds like Confucius ornis. But it was an awkward stage. I guess Anki ornis would have been a better example. It had the four-wing setup too.
Well, you said it was an awkward stage. I think every stage in between is awkward. They're all going to die. We still have reptiles. We still have birds. So everything in between apparently is all dead.
Well, yeah, Microraptor and Anki ornis, yeah, they're not here anymore.
Are there any animals alive today that are intermediate between two different kinds?
If you're talking about, like, is there an intermediate between birds and dinosaurs today? No, that wouldn't make any sense.
I found it. Okay. The fruit fly experiment. It's on seminar part 4. Okay. We're way past that, but they've not seen any. They got curly wings, no wings. Fruit flies refuse to become anything but fruit flies. Wow, who'd have thunk it? All mutations observed produce flies that were inferior. That's a good observation. They say, therefore, flies must have evolved as far as they can go. Well, that's a bad conclusion. You could evolve. You could decide they're not evolving. So the fruit fly experiment was classic to demonstrate in the laboratory, in reality, in observable science, evolution doesn't happen. Doesn't. That's my point. Okay. I'm sorry, I got off track there.
Okay, guys. Moving on. Definitely a debate to remember. This was a lot of people are looking forward to it, and you guys didn't disappoint. The next question comes in from Taylor K. And Taylor K's got a question for you, Jackson. So here it is. Is there any fossil evidence of a creature with transitional bones in between the massive dinosaur bones and the hollow bird bones we see today?
Yeah, most, if not all, of the theropods had hollow bones.
Okay. Kent, anything you'd like to add?
So he's counting this theropod because it has hollow bones. Therefore, you know it's intermediary. I would say maybe it's just a bunch of creatures that all have hollow bones. You don't know it's changing to something else. Again, no fossils are going to count. None. Where is it happening today? Take an animal with solid bones and turn them hollow.
Well, it's called osteoporosis, but that's not really evolution.
There is no evolution. It doesn't happen. It's a religion. It's imagination.
All right, here we go. Question from Centurion 737. Thanks for your question. Questions for you, Jackson. How many mutations would it take to make the changes from reptile to bird? or how much new DNA information is required?
Well, I would say there's no real way to know that, but I would think quite a bit. And I think Kent would agree.
Yeah. So much, it's impossible.
All right, gentlemen. Next question comes in from Bubblegum Gun, $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Roe, why are all bird dino? Let me see. Why are all bird dinos all fully feathered?
Why are all bird dinos all fully feathered? Are you guys frozen? Did my Wi-Fi cut out?
No.
Okay. I
We're
thought
good.
you were just being still.
I think we're all trying to figure out.
We're
the
all
question.
trying to take this question in. Okay. Why are all bird dinos fully feathered? Because they had feathers. I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. Simple answer, short and sweet. Hey, I just work here, gentlemen. I get the questions, put them up on screen. Ken, anything you'd like to add?
I don't know that they were. Is that true that they, rather than just getting 1 or 2 feathers on their head and then 2 on their butt or something, all of them are suddenly fully feathered? I have slides of what they're teaching on that, about these creatures getting feathers. And I think the question is legitimate. I didn't think about that, but that's correct. They seem to be showing all of a sudden they got feathers everywhere. Why not one at a time? What benefit would 1 feather do on top of its head as opposed to, oh, here we go. Slide 2592, Alt-DV 2592. They seem to show all of a sudden a bunch of feathers. Where's the one with 1 feather or 2 feathers? If that's what the question is answered, as asking, the questioner is asking. A fair question.
Unless he's wondering, Jackson, I'm not sure. I'm going to interpret this. Maybe he's saying all the feathered dinosaurs that you point to, since they have feathers and look like birds, maybe they're just birds and not actually dinosaurs.
Well, for a 20-foot tyrannosaur with feathers, I think that's a stretch to say it's a bird.
Okay, let's start winding it down here. Kent, question from Jade Bryan. Ask Kent to define a kind.
Well, the Bible says if they can bring forth, they're the same kind. I would be willing to bet $5 that the woodpeckers and the pine trees cannot bring forth a baby together. The woodpeckers and the cows cannot bring forth a baby. The dogs and the coyotes can. The dogs and the wolves can. The coyotes and the wolves can. So I think they're probably the same kind. I think that's a good field of research to try to determine. That's what the whole idea of developing classification systems is. Hey, where are we going to classify this? There's biologists, that's their full-time job. Find a new animal in the jungle. Oh, what is this? Where does it go? What's classification? That's all artificial, induced on them from man. The animals don't care where we put them. I'll tell you what, turn the animals loose in the woods, they will find their own kind. Our rabbits do not seek out the chickens to mate with them at all. Show no interest. They look for another rabbit. So leave them alone. They'll show you what's the same kind.
All right, so we have our answer. Ostriches and emus are different kinds then, even though they're not really.
We have levels of classification: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. We could put all animals in the category of alive. Okay, come on.
Sure.
But as far as the biblical kind, when it says they're going to bring forth after their kind, I would say sometimes it would fall on our modern classification system at the species level, sometimes at the genus level, sometimes at the family level. I don't think that when God made the animals, he cared at all about Carolus Linnaeus and his classification system. They bring forth after their kind.
That's another interesting thing. You say sometimes it's family, sometimes it's genus, which kind of is Jade's point that no one really knows what a kind is.
No one really knows what a species is. There's 21 different definitions.
The definition of species is kind of murky, but when you go up to genus, it's pretty clear what a genus is. We all know what a genus is.
Okay, well, maybe kind is more along the genus level. Like I said, I don't think the animals care where we classify them, but if they can bring forth, they're certainly the same kind. Ostrich and emus cannot bring forth. So God might have made 100 different kinds of birds.
Yeah, they're both ratites. Yeah, they're both ratites.
Who told him that?
No one told them that.
Some person, a human being, is deciding what group to put them in. They don't care. We put our nuts and bolts in one drawer and our screws in another drawer. They don't care which drawer we put them in. It's man classifying them. Our modern classification system is, I think it's great. We got to have it. I'm glad we have it. We classify vehicles into cars, trucks, SUVs, etc. That's fine. But the vehicle doesn't care. And the animals don't care where we classify them. The emus do not show any interest in the ostriches. And they don't mate with them. So they're not the same kind. Now, the coyotes show an interest in the dogs. When they get in heat, they make a coy dog. Okay, it must be the same kind.
All right, gentlemen. Excellent debate. We're going to wrap it up there. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Time really flies by with these debates. I enjoy them. The audience loves them. And I could listen to these all day. I want to say one of our moderators in the chat, Cheryl, thank you so much. She has linked and pinned the Evolution Debate Challenge document for people to check out. Kent and I were discussing that earlier. So please check out that link, share it around, and let's get these evolutionists to debate. So Jackson, you being the evolutionist tonight, thank you so much for doing this, engaging in this topic. Let's have some final words, final thoughts. Great to have you back. Good to see you're doing well. Final thoughts, final words. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think me and Kent could do this for hours and just never run out of stuff to talk about. But yeah, 2 hours flies by. But yeah, it was fun, and I hope we get a maybe record 7th debate, Kent, someday.
Anytime.
That's all I really have to say. It was a fun debate.
And I would like to close with Pascal's wager. Jackson, if you are right, evolution is true, I haven't lost a thing. I've enjoyed life. I'm having a blast. It's wonderful. If I die and find out that's it, okay. Actually, I wouldn't find out. I'd just be dead. I haven't missed a thing. But if I'm right and you're wrong, you lose eternity. So Pascal's wager. I can't lose either way. You can lose one way. So call our web ministry, 855-BIG-DINO. I'm extension 3. I take calls all day and half the night. Come visit us, Dinosaur Adventureland. It's free. We'll put you up, house you after about 2 days, give you a shovel, and put you to work.
All right, gentlemen, great debate again. Dr. Kent, the Science Gent, and Jackson Roe, thank you so much. To the audience and to you, Kent, we'll see you again tomorrow night, same time. Ryan Adler, Evolution on Trial. Okay, we're going to let the debaters get out of here. Kent, you get some rest, much deserved. Yep. You as well, Jackson. To the audience, I'm going to be back in 2 minutes for some reminders, but all this coffee and water, I got to run to the washroom real quick, and I'll be back. So
we'll need some more coffee.
Yeah. Okay, God bless all. We'll see you in a bit. All right, I am back. A little bit of a break there. Just a couple minutes of reminders. For anybody new to this channel, this was, I think, our 235th debate or something like that. starting to lose count, but there is an entire debate playlist. So you can find, for all you debate addicts, you can find debates on the nature of God, soteriology, plenty, of course, on creation, evolution. In terms of the Evolution Debate Challenge, we've done about 45 so far. Last night, we had an open mic discussion, debate, Q&A with Professor David McQueen, our team geologist. His debate with King Crocoduck, the much anticipated debate with King Crocoduck, that's definitely going to be huge, is confirmed next Sunday. So it's supposed to be yesterday, Sunday. Now it's just going to be next Sunday, 6 o'clock EST. And last night was fun, though. It was worth it. We went almost 3 hours. We had a lot of good open mic discussion, a lot of great people who joined to basically engage Professor David McQueen on the age of the earth and the global flood. So we want to do more of those in the future. We've done several of those with Kent. We're going to continue doing those with Kent as well. We like our open mic discussions, gives everybody the opportunity, whether skeptics or non-skeptics, to join, ask questions, provide challenges, objections, criticisms. We strongly believe in critical thinking here on Standing for Truth. So we don't ever want to just be an echo chamber. Although we're a young earth creation ministry, we host probably more debates and panel discussions than anybody out there. So if you're a skeptic, a critic, someone that doesn't necessarily agree with the positions advanced on this channel, that's why we host these open discussions for people to join. We love healthy dialogue. So I do want to let everybody know I've got the first copy of End Times Revealed, Dawn of the Antichrist. I'm pumped for this. I think it looks fantastic. I'm extremely excited for its release. It's a big book. It's about 300 pages. It's comprehensive, gets into basically everything eschatology related. So I'm excited for the discussion that I'm sure it is going to generate. There is also a full color version with a variant cover. I should probably have that tomorrow. And with that being said, the book will be available tomorrow, and I will give an official announcement on that, as well as make a video, since I know there's a lot of people that want to get it right away. I'll let you guys know. I'll put the links out there for both versions, and we'll let you guys get a copy of it. Again, End Times Revealed, Dawn of the Antichrist, roughly 300 pages. And I've already started on part 2, The Wrath of God, which will probably be another comprehensive book. For those who love the creation versus evolution controversy, this one I published last month. Again, another big book, special creation. Basically everything you can ever want compiled into a book in terms of the ancestry debate. You've got chromosome 2 fusion, endogenous retroviruses, nested hierarchies, all of your good stuff. Mitochondrial Eve, Y chromosome Noah, everything is in there for people to check out and enjoy. So tomorrow, the Evolution Debate Challenge series continues. Ryan Adler taking the challenge, and Dr. Dino. This one should be pretty epic. Also, end of the week, Mark Reed and Kent Hovind. And then next week, Matt Slick and Jake the Muslim Metaphysician. So I've been looking forward to this for a while. We've got 3 or 4 main events, 3 or 4 big debates, all within a week or two. So we've got this one. We've got Kelly Powers and Turretin fan debating Calvinism. Does John 6 teach the Calvinist doctrine of effectual calling? 2 very knowledgeable brothers in the Lord here. This is going to be a really excellent debate, both seasoned debaters. They always come in swinging, so I'm pumped. Mark Reed and Kent, of course. And then the other main event we've all been looking forward to for about 4 months now, Steve Christie and Dr. Robert Sungenis, the Marian Dogmas debate. This one's coming up first part of November 8th to be exact. And last one I want to remind everybody about, we want this to be interactive. So of course, as usual, we do these live. You got questions, objections, criticisms, bring them into the live chat, and we will have our visiting geologists from the creation research team, 2 of my favorite young earth creationists. They're doing fantastic work. They do an amazing job countering the critics, John Mackay and Joseph Hubbard. Polystrate trees. This is going to be the most thorough presentation, discussion, and just video in general on this important topic. So guys, make sure you are here for that. And lastly, here's the full color edition variant cover, which will be available tomorrow as well, which again, I will give you guys a reminder. So real quick, I want to look at the chat. Thank you everybody for the super stickers, super chats, much appreciated. Awesome. Thank you so much, Doki and Jonathan Prime. Good question about the hard cover. We may actually do that. Yes. We're going to have 2 so far that'll be available tomorrow, which will be the black and white and the full color. And then we're also looking for the possibility of doing a hardcover. I saw another comment here, but it's moving quick. I think it was from Richard Lee. I think I missed it already, but Richard, I did get your email. So I think Richard is interested in having a discussion on eschatology. And so since this book will definitely generate some debate, some healthy debate amongst the brothers, I'll set those up. I know there's a couple people who are interested in debating me specifically on the end times topic. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been looking forward to this debate for a while, the return of Jackson Roe. And I really enjoy these more so hyper-specific debates where we just kind of hash it out for 2 hours on a specific topic. Tonight being, did dinosaurs evolve into modern birds? I look forward to rewatching this. Tons of great discussion back and forth between Jackson and Kent. So please, if you're not yet subscribed, but you love debates, lectures, presentations, interviews, and more, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until tomorrow, guys, God bless. Standing for Truth is out.